down, yeah. I've been feeling so down, yeah.
My fellow Filipinos, since 2020 we have been fighting a battle of two fronts. The first against the deadly coronavirus, the second against the actions of those who have sought to create instability and chaos. We have marshaled all of our resources to restore stability in order to ensure that we stabilize the situation and ensure that the violence ended. To address these two crises, we have to take several actions at once. Firstly, we have to contain the spread of coronavirus and limit its impact on economic activity. Secondly, we have to accelerate our vaccination program so that the vast majority of adult Filipino citizens can be vaccinated before the end of the year. Thirdly, we need to ensure that peace and stability is maintained throughout the country and that there are no further incidents of violence. Fourth, in response to both pandemic and the recent violence, we need to provide support and relief to poor households in order to alleviate the hardships they are going through and reduce hunger. Fifth, we need to help business to rebuild. These are business affected by looting and destruction of property, and those affected by the pandemic and the necessary measures we have taken to contain it. Finally, we need to accelerate the implementation of our economic reconstruction and recovery plan to rebuild our economy, create employment, and drive inclusive growth. Accordingly, we need to continue to do everything in our minds to contain the spread of the virus. The latest figures suggest that we have largely passed the peak of the infection, although there are areas in the country where we still need to be concerned because the rates of infections have not yet shown signs of decline. The measure that we put in place for the past months, alongside the continued adherence of our countrymen to basic health precautions, have been effective in reducing the rate of infection. In the last 2 weeks, the number of new infections in Metro Manila, which has been the epicenter of the virus, has steadily been declining. However, as we have observed before, there are significant differences between provinces. As infection fall, daily new infections in some parts of the country continue to rise. There has also been concerning rise of infection in the northern Mindanao after a period of relative stability. In all these cases, infections are being driven by the Delta variant, which, as we said before, is far more transmissible than previous variant. Now, more than ever, we need to adhere to the basic precautions to limit the spread of the virus from one person to another. We know that indoor gatherings, particularly in places that have poor ventilation, are the major cause of outbreaks and super spreader events. We must continue wearing our mask at all times when in public, keep our distance from others, and always ensure that windows are open and that there is flow of fresh air. The overall decline in new infections means that it's possible to gradually ease some of the restriction on gatherings, movement, and the sale of alcohol, Based on the recommendation of the IATF on COVID-19 and inputs from the President's Coordinating Council, Cabinet this afternoon decided that the country should be moved from adjusted alert level and be placed on adjusted lower alert level. This will take effect on once regulations have been gazetted. This means that the hour of curfew start at 10 p.m. and end at 4 a.m. Interprovincial travel for leisure may resume. Non-essential establishments like restaurants, taverns, bars, and fitness centers may be opened. These establishments will however need to close by 9 p.m. to allow their employees and patrons to travel home before the start of curfew. Gatherings will be allowed but will be limited to a maximum of 50 people indoors and 100 people outdoors. Where the venue is too small to accommodate these numbers with appropriate social distancing, then no more than 50% of the capacity of the venue may be used. Gatherings include religious services, political events, and social gatherings. The limits on venue capacity also apply to restaurants, gyms, fitness centers, bars, taverns, and similar places. Attendance at funerals and cremations may not exceed 50 people. All social distancing and health protocols must be observed. Night vigil after funeral gatherings are still not allowed. The sale of alcohol from retail outlets for off-site composition will be permitted between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Alcohol sales for on-site consumption will be permitted as per license conditions up to 8 p.m. It remains mandatory for every person to wear face masks that always cover their nose, mouth, and all times when in public spaces. The owners and manager of public buildings, centers, shops, restaurants, taxis, and buses all have responsibility to ensure that people in their premises or their vehicle wear masks. They must also ensure that the appropriate social distancing measures are in place are adhered to. Remember that it is a criminal offense if the number of people on these premises exceeds the maximum number of customers or employees allowed. As we ease restriction, we must remember that infection remain high and that we need to continue to exercise caution. As we have always said, our most effective weapon in the fight against COVID-19 is an effective and comprehensive vaccination program. In the last few weeks, our vaccination campaign has made huge strides. We are now administering more than 240,000 vaccines every weekday. This has been possible through close collaboration between government and the private sector with the active support of other social partners. In the coming weeks, we will substantially increase the rate of vaccination. We are increasing the number of vaccination sites and improving the vaccination registration system. We will also increase our vaccination capacity on weekends. This will be addition to the age groups that currently eligible which is everyone over 35 years of age. We are now able to allow people to present themselves at a vaccination site without an appointment and be registered and vaccinated. This substantial increase in the rate of vaccination is made possible by improvements in the supply vaccine. This supply pipeline means that there will be sufficient vaccine dose available for the rest of the year. We have made tremendous progress in addressing the challenges we face as a country and the continent in access to vaccine. As a result of our negotiation with pharmaceutical campaign and virus, the Bill of Economy, governments of our country and our continent has been able to secure vaccine and is able to manufacture vaccine on our continent. While there is a sample supply of vaccine for the short term, we must ensure that this supply is delivered on time and without disruption. It is also important to monitor the emergence of new variants and to secure access to future vaccines that are adapted to these variants.